So now it's time for me to call upon my guests for the second round table, which is on DevRel. Now, DevRel involves normally establishing relations between a company and the IT community. Now, initially, DevRel specialists, they were engaged in promoting developer software's products among only developers. But over the time, DevRel as a function has begun to be used by businesses to work on the company's brand as an employer. But how does the entire developer relations stand out as a functionality? Is it a career opportunity one can explore? To answer this and much more, guys, please give me a huge round of applause for our guest today, Ms. Vanita Aggarwal, Head Digital Engagement Practice, EPAM India. Mr. Subhabrata Chatterjee, Distinguished Architect, Digital and Data Services, Societe Generale Global Solution Center. Operations lead from HP. All right. First of all, thank you so much for being a part of our celebrations this year. We are marking the 10th year of Code Gladiators. And to quickly actually start with the point how this entire DevRel is working and what time of the year that we are actually looking at, I want to know from all four of you that is this a good time that we can actually see to make a career move into the developer relations? Mandar, let's begin with you.
Yes, so thanks Sukri for asking the question. Yes, I think I can say any time is a good time to get into the developer relations, right? Particularly if you start looking at what my company is doing, right? So essentially, we have a developer relations platform. We have an offering for private cloud. We call it as PC, the Private Cloud Enterprise, under the brand name of GreenLake. And essentially, we enable two types. One is how developers can leverage that platform using APIs, FAQs, and so on and so forth. And then also there is a test bed where you can move on. In addition to that, I just want to give another twist to developer relations here. So it's just not about developers, but also how do you engage partners, developers who are working with partners, right? And if we add that, then that opens up a very different kind of opportunity because you are working on products which get enabled on the platform, maybe cloud and all, right? So if you really ask me, opportunities galore, and I also see specializations in developer relations. Wherein you say, hey, for example, if I'm enabling cloud, then you can actually be specialist in specific. So maybe, or if you are enabling the technology on multiple different devices, whether it is a mobile or whether it is a desktop and all, then you actually get specialists which are very focused so that you can address the issues coming from developers for that specific scenario, right? So I would say, yeah, opportunities galore. Thank you.
Thank you. Naveen?
Hello. Thanks, Shukrati, for having us here. And again, congrats on your 10th anniversary for the TechGig Code Gladiators. And I wish you more success in the coming days. I think we are all living in a very excited period of technology evolution, right? And technology is going in every corner of the world, and it becomes itself a strong case why dev relationships or developer relationships shouldn't be brought into a limelight in every product company, right? In my personal view, I think this is a great time for every technologist to cherish the moments where we are trying to bring the cutting edge tech into almost every space, right? Be it our rural sector, or be it our government policies, be it our IT department, or you probably will find more use cases in the global side, but I'm also looking at how India as a country is also kind of leveraging that. For me, developer relationships is a key area that I think every company should mature. There is already good amount of efforts that every organization is putting, but I think if you keep aside the marketing aspect, as a product innovator, as a technologist, how you can bring your product closer to your the developers, I see three major ways or platforms that developer relationships kind of can leverage. I think this brings the relation why developer relations has to be brought into the limelight. One is the coding platforms, like how we are driving. Another one is the content creations. It could be in various platforms. Other one is community partnerships. And fourth one is collaboration. If you bring all these 4 C's into one space, that's developer relationships. I think this itself is an evolution that every organization has to bring within itself as a practice. And like someone said in the past, I think it also has to be part of their culture on how to kind of bring your products more closer to your customers in a way that it becomes easy for them to adopt and enjoy the moments of working with your products.
Thank you, Naveen. Thank you so much. Subhabrata?
I think, first of all, I would like to thank Sukriti for this opportunity to speak in TechGig. I would say that developer relations is a concept that's still maturing in Indian landscape. It's quite prevalent in the product organizations where there are dedicated roles as product leaders, product managers. So the big tech giants have, if you go to their websites, they have dedicated networks, global networks. Anybody can sign into by just checking. They have chapters globally where a developer can sign in and this thing. These concepts are not there. So while I was doing that, I was thinking, okay, if I want to know more about Aadhaar, if I want to know more about UPI, do I have a chapter to log in? I couldn't find one. Okay, so there is India Stack. How many in this room know about India Stack? I'm not sure. We just know the name. Where is the chapter? Are there meetups being held? How do I know? So there is tremendous opportunity in Indian landscape also, but I think there is a lot of, I hope we're going to talk deep dive as we speak in this chapter. There are some communication mechanisms going to talk. So that's my thought. I think we have a great way forward in this domain itself.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes,
thank you, Sukriti. Thank you, everybody. And speaking last, kind of you figure out what's left to be talked about. Thank you, everybody. And to some of the points almost already covered, right? So there are 3 aspects of 3 kind of companies that we work with today, right? One are pure product companies, Google, SAP, Salesforce of the world. Then there are IT services companies, the Infosys, Capgemini, EPAMs of the world. And then there are platform organizations. I'm differentiating a little bit between platform and product companies because companies like Amazon today, for example, right? They might have smaller products, and we're not talking about hardware. We're talking about some software products as well. But if you go and shop today at Amazon.in, that itself is a platform. It's a huge platform, and the number of developers they have behind that platform is a big number as well. Now, a lot of you will already be aware of what's a product owner. So, being a dev-rel relationship or a developer relationship, building that community, building relationships with your developers, kind of takes you to the next level. It kind of adds the dimension of your product engineering with what you are having a product mindset and product owner mindset. So it's the next level, and why I would say is the right time to begin now is I think it needs to mature for a bit, and if you don't start today, it might be late. 2, last 10 years has seen India having a lot of GCCs, a lot of captives, a lot of developer center of these product organizations open up. Now, it's the right time for these kind of roles to now start in India. It will need a certain level of maturity for you guys to reach there. So hence I would say if you start today, you're very well positioned to take on those responsible and bigger positions in 3-4 years of time. That's my take. Thank you.
Thank you, Vanita. So that being said about the current situations and if this is the right time, continuing with this, when we talk of DevRel, teams, they don't just focus on technology but solely evangelize a company's technology as well. Do you think developer relations is actually less marketing and more collaboration now?
Short answer is yes. A little bit longish answer. Think of you buying a product from the market, right? Now, you've bought an iPhone. You've bought an iPhone because it's been marketed superly well. How have you rated it? How have you reviewed it? That's where the developers come into play. So the developers can be equated to the consumers here, right? So that's the collaboration bit. Now, if your product is good, your rating is good, your reviews are good, it kind of goes back and helps the marketing as well, marketing teams as well. So definitely is a lot more in developer relationships for collaboration rather than just saying marketing, and it's much more than that. Going back to my earlier point of how these collaborations can increase more. Today, it's a no-brainer. A lot of the product companies, may it be Salesforce, SAP, Adobe's of the world, they have their dedicated relationship centers set up. So all the development events that you go to, the trailblazers of Salesforce, etc., they're all a part of the DevRel community that is being formed. What DevRel eventually wants to do, think of it this way, is that they want to make their developer community an advocate of the product itself. So tomorrow when you guys are architects, and some of you might already be there today, and you're being asked to choose a solution, you might come up and say, I like SAP better, I like Adobe better, I like Salesforce better. It's because you understand the product well. Somebody from the product company has spent time with you to explain the product roadmap, the idea of what we are building and why we are building. So that's a no-brainer. Today, that field already is quite mature in a lot of product companies. Where there is more space for collaboration today is how the platform companies and the IT services company talk. So I'm a part of EPAM. EPAM has a very, we call ourselves product development services company. We don't call ourselves IT services company. Historically, because EPAM has done a lot of product development and also because we have a product mindset. Now, when I am working with various products, many products together, right? In an IT landscape, you would have SAP, Adobe, Google, Microsoft, Salesforce, everything together. Now, these platforms or products separately have no clue that if they need to together work in a collaborative way, then what are the extensions of the product they can do? So trying to build a cross-platform, plugins, for example, or how to make these products work together, that's a lot of collaboration and an opportunity today that I see in the DevRel world. Should increase not just the maturity and understanding of how these products work better within the developer community, but it also gives a lot of opportunities for products to make their product more ready to use in a larger IT landscape. That's one part. Now, all the product companies, they're obviously still making products, but the users of those companies are all the IT services companies. Do they understand how to bring in the industry element into the products that they build? Some bit, yes. You will find a lot of health clouds, retail clouds, etc. coming in. But still, having developers in the IT services company working on these products, understanding what kind of customization is needed in those products, and then imagine having a DevRel person within my organization working directly, let's say, with SAP or Salesforce or Adobe, and telling them that, guys, these are the industry flavors you should probably bring in your product because it's not a one-way road anymore, right? Initially, DevRel was thought about as product companies bringing their own developer communities, their portals where people would come and discuss the bugs, a better way of doing things. That's all DevRel relationship was. Now it has gone one level up. It's become a two-way road. So you can talk to your developers, you can tell them what's coming up, and then the developers go back with a lot of feedback to the products as well. That is where I think the IT services have a lot of role to play, and that's where I say more collaboration will come up, and I'll say more roles will come up. The second part, and maybe Subhabrata and Naveen can add to it. Again, going back to my Amazon example, right? They're huge platforms in themselves. Now, when a platform becomes as huge as that, it becomes very, very complicated. And then not all extensions to that platform is easy for anybody to understand. A lot of people that you speak to in such organizations, they're doing a lot of work, but do they understand? A very, very 0.01% of the part that I am building or the plugin that I am writing, how does it fit into the larger picture? Or is there a way that I can kind of club these parts, smaller parts of the product better to make the whole platform a little bit less complicated? I don't know if that's happening today. So for me, the other option or the other, a lot of this DevRel opportunities will arise will also be when everybody from the platform's perspective also starts to mature up and feel that we can actually decomplicate our platforms and bring a lot of speed into it. Today, because the products have become, or platforms have become so complicated, till the time you take the feedback from grounds up, you're not really sure, what are we doing and how can we decomplicate the whole process. So that is another thing for me, the collaboration from the platform organizations who have millions and millions of users. If they have DevRel teams within their organizations, that itself would also decomplicate the process, hopefully, speeden up the process and make them understand that what does our developer community think about the platform that we are building. Shukri, that's my take on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Vanita. Thank you so much. I think that this will actually build on to my second question, which is for Subhabrata. The future of DevRel is increasingly, digital, and building resources that can reach a global audience is also very essential. Now, do you think there is a need for evolution in current communication methods, especially after the emergence of AI chatbots like ChatGPT?
Yeah, I will take a few steps back first, talk about some of the communication mechanisms. Like what I've seen, there is a need to build incubation hubs. I'm just calling it quote-unquote incubation hubs, which is a collaboration between premier institutions of India. I'm talking about Indian context here, the likes of IITs, triple ITs, and NITs, and also along with the organizations, big corporates, and of course you, which are the developer community. I've seen that happening in Citizen India, where organizations they sponsor programs in IoT, AI. They sponsor programs. They invite developers, and the facilities are provided by another. So it's a group of 3-4 entities which are coming together and providing that so I'm calling it an incubation hub, which does not exist in many, but it exists in few cities, at least in India. So there is a need for doing that. Traditional, I think Vanita was talking about platforms and then IT services companies. So IT services companies along with global capability centers, GCCs or global innovation centers, GICs, they're more and more coming up. I think there is a great opportunity for GCCs, GICs and IT services companies to also become part of those incubation hubs, so that product development does not limited to. So that's part one, incubation hub. Second ones, I think I'll talk about marketplace. Second concept is marketplace. So it's how many of you, I'm not sure, I've heard about open banking APIs. Open banking started from Europe. It started as a concept. Now it's a regulation. So if you search in internet, you will find there are banks in Europe who are providing sandboxes for developers. You go that marketplace. So imagine you have an app which is developed using open banking APIs. You go and build your developer apps and then sell it in the marketplace. Now you have communities. Imagine you sell that on Amazon, Google, Microsoft, or any of the, or to the financial organization itself, right? So you, by knowing the technologies is not enough. You know the marketplace. You go to that marketplace, develop and contribute to them, right? Like the open source marketplace. So that's the second medium that you can adopt. The third one, of course, hackathons and meetups. I have personally been to meetups. That's of course very important. And I think initial part I was talking about the big tech giants. They have these chapters. Very exciting. Just sign up to the chapters and become part of that. So these are the communication mechanism I think can be used. Thank you.
Thank you, Subhabrata. Now we need to distinguish, right? There are terms like we use, like software and developers, and they're inherently very broad. And so is developer relations, I must quote. It is proven to be an effective method for companies to evangelize their products through the communication method that Subhabrata just mentioned. But are we expecting to see some increasingly specializations in DevRel? And Naveen, do you think that with every company being a tech company today, the scope of developer jobs and demand for developer evangelists will see an upward trend?
Thanks, Shukriti, for this question. It's a very important one. I think a lot of tech companies are doing the DevRel. They give different titles and different names to it, but I think they are pretty active. But it's also important for a lot of companies which are emerging to kind of establish that practice in their own respective organizations, be it startups or be it probably stealth companies or whatever you take, right? Like I think it's important to establish that culture, and definitely I see DevRel jobs will trend. I think there will be more focus on how we embrace, or we enable the developers to embrace the products that we offer to them in a way that it goes to wide spectrum of people, that kind of not many people will have the ability to kind of go and attend a meetup, but probably they might be in a place where YouTube is maybe a platform for them, which and a lot of tech companies, they do blog posts, or they do announce, and they do kind of run working sessions as well. I think these all contributes back to the same purpose of what a dev relationships professional should be doing. I think it's important for them to identify what those platforms are. Like some of the top companies, they also go to Coursera to launch their, right? But it's not probably everybody would go and afford and then buy them. But I think it's also important for them to kind of establish their presence in various platforms where emerging developers or community, be it college graduates or undergraduates or research fellows, are more comfortable to get into. I think establish those platforms in those areas, and making sure that there is an active voice bringing the essence of what product they are offering to the developers to consume those in a much easier way. I think it's to kind of build that relationship and be a strong advocate. I think there is definitely a strong growth that I see in that field.
So, Kriti, if I may, maybe a little bit of tangent, right? So I was just having a call with some of my architects a while back, and everybody talks about Gen AI right now, right? So they started talking about the offerings that can be made in AI and Gen AI for the DevRel. So they started thinking that you have all these platforms, and a lot of that is still dependent on one person, the relationships, the team that holds relationships, to take out the feedback from what this whole community, think today Java community, I can't even imagine how big that community would be, right? And it's not India only, it's like global, right? So they started talking about the offerings that can be built in the DevRel area by some of the technologists in AI and in Gen AI, so that the feedback that it's collated from this huge group can automatically, start to draw trends, suggestions, predictive product ideas, reducing complexity and all that. Not really the DevRel work itself it will do, but the output of DevRel would hugely increase if today there are offerings, and I don't know if there are today, I don't think so, but if those offerings start to materialize, then the takeaway from this DevRel and the ROI of the DevRel would be so much more visible for everybody to see on the table.
Thank you, Vanita. You've actually touch-based the very next question that I had for Mandar when it comes to calculating the matrices, We generally put, invest into certain things, calculating the ROIs, as you mentioned. Now, Mandar, the elephant in the room for any DevRel team is always the matrices, right? How do we actually measure if you're doing a good job, or if you're actually having an impact of the developer relations outside?
Okay, so I think the simple answer is dollars, right? So how many dollars are you enabling? And essentially it will boil down to, like some of the panelists were mentioning, right? One, how many services are getting onto the platform, right? Or are you building on top of it? Because sometimes what happens is that it's a collaboration, right? So that collaboration can be that you are leveraging somebody else's service and then building on top of it, right? So it can be that, but finally it does boil down to the number of the dollars for the company perspective. It does also boil down to the interactions or the the amount of buzz that you see. So it can be like, for example, you have a Slack community, right? And how much is the traffic which is getting generated, and what kind of traction do you see? I think I would say those two would be the key. Rest all, anyway, you can put many other matrices like, how many conferences we end up doing and how many meetups we have and so on and so forth. But I think the two key factors would be definitely the dollar figures and the traction.
Thank you so much, Mandar. Continuing with this, since I have had my set of questions from each one of you, I would want to close this conversation with one little bit of closing remarks, and let's begin with you, Vanita, from this side.
Thank you for the opportunity, first of all. For me, DevRel is not just about collaboration. It's about the value add it brings. It's an investment initially, and I think imagine you being in a role where you have the power and to make a difference to the product and how it is shaped. I think it's a great product with a great idea, great career path with a lot of future, and I'm glad that we are talking about it, with such experts from the industry. Thank you, Sukriti.
Thank you, Vanita. Subhabrata?
I think we are at the cusp where, with the expansion of startups, it's a very big market and for everyone. So going back to the point, the companies can now go to the market, to the developer community, and offer their products and services in the form of capsules where each entity can understand each other, what the products, and the developer can also feedback to that. And I think, I'm hoping that this developer relations role that we're talking about becomes a mainstream. With this, evolution, it becomes mainstream in the market in India. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Subhabrata. Naveen?
I think I want to reiterate pretty exciting times for everyone and a lot of innovations coming out, and I think probably this is the best time where I think companies should kind of invest in the developer relationships, bring strong advocates, ambassadors of their products, more closer to the developers, more closer to the next generation of developers who are coming out of their colleges, universities, or from their research. I think it allows them to kind of not only establish themselves, but also an investment that kind of brings value, not only in terms of the money, but also in terms of the brand value. I think we really can't measure things that comes out of that, right? And also the popularity factors, right? So I think a lot of things, probably there is no way that we can kind of measure in this space, but I think as we move on, we will be able to identify more metrics that can bring what you see as a value of a developer relationships. But I think it's the right time. Companies should focus on enabling these developer relation roles and people to kind of step forward and then bring organizations much closer to the audience.
Thank you so much, Naveen. Mandar?
Thanks. So just to add to what others are saying, I think you can just imagine this as a developer plus, right? So you have a skill which you carry, which is a core skill, and then a developer relation actually adds value to that, because you start understanding how market forces are working and how they are reacting and what kind of requirements they have. So I think that's what my take is. Exciting times. If you are interested in a developer plus kind of environment, developer relations.
Thank you. That was so crisp and straight. Thank you. Thank you so much once again for your valuable time, Mandar, Naveen, Subhabrata, and Vanita. Thank you so much. I had a great time with this conversation. Thank you.